Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of the Gridiron Glory podcast here with Tad and Will this evening. We are here to bring you hot takes of January football. Playoffs are right around the corner. It is the regular season finale week as we are concluding week 18 matchups. We're here to talk about two teams in the NFC South that faced off in week 18. This did also happen to be both teams' season finales. So but one pesky rival did knock the other one out of the playoffs. That being the Panthers over the Falcons, 44-38 in overtime. Yeah, Tad, safe to say that this was easily the best performance of the Carolina Panthers this season. Easily the best game of Bryce Young's career with the 5 touchdowns. And yeah, Tad, I would like to personally ask you really quick where, after this performance, after the season is now officially over, where would you rank Bryce Young amongst starting quarterbacks in the league?
I feel like for the first time in his career, Bryce Young actually has some positive momentum to work on. Like this season wasn't a complete disaster like it could have been. I mean, it started out really poorly, obviously, and then he gets benched and all that. They go to Dalton for a bit. He comes back, and since he's been back, he's played reasonably well. I mean, he's looked like an NFL quarterback, dare I say it.
I mean, I was really impressed, and even late in the game when the game was tied at 24, he darts it into the end zone to Moore to bring Carolina up 31-24. You're just kind of thinking in that moment, like, wow, okay, here we go, Bryce Young. And I was truly impressed with the resiliency, though, of Michael Penix Jr. And I mean, this is a game that Michael Penix Jr. can certainly build off of and certainly take into the offseason. I don't want to discredit Michael Penix Jr.'s performance in this game because MPJ did also go out there and play a really good game of football. He definitely willed his team back into it, especially late, with less than 10 minutes left to go. And I was honestly probably really impressed when he was able to bring the moment I was probably most impressed by was when he threw that touchdown pass to Drake London to the middle of the end zone to tie it up. I'm thinking in this moment, like, wow, Michael Penix Jr., this is probably what, his second or like his third NFL start, if
I
I'm not
want to say
mistaken,
third. I
his
want to say
third
number
NFL
two.
start. So, and already, he was going out there and making big time plays, big time throws like that. It's just clear to me that the Carolina Panthers wanted this game a little bit more. And I mean, I certainly wasn't able to blame them in that regard because they have, come a long way. They've, shown tremendous resiliency, even in the face of adversity. Tad, this is a team that we probably, I mean, okay, they exceeded our predictions. Tad, this is a team that only won 2 football games last year. We might have actually predicted them to win 5. I can't remember specifically. But this is about the season we expect them to have. But like you said, you hired Dave Canales. You don't fire Dave Canales after a game like this, and we'll get into
Right.
that when we talk about the New England Patriots. But yeah, you don't go out there and fire Dave Canales. No, certainly not. You keep him around because he's the pivotal point of this rebuild, and just a win that felt really good for this franchise because this has easily been like probably one of the worst franchises in sports for quite some time. And earlier this season, we talked tremendously about how horribly ran it is. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a horribly ran franchise, but it's a step in the right direction. Going out there and getting a win
Definitely a
like
step
that.
in the right direction. You can now imagine a scenario where they have a plan. You can think that could this work? I mean, earlier this year there were questions like, is there any chance this can work? Like we didn't know, but now it seems they have a possibility of figuring this out. They have a possibility. I mean, like you said, there are still a lot of things they need to do to clean up the organization. There's far from perfect, but they've built a team that has a chance to eventually be a competitive football team.
Absolutely. You know, yeah. So Bryce Young in this game, 25 of 34, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns. Um, and he also did rush for 2 touchdowns as well. Jalen Coker, 7 catches of 6 for 62 yards. Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen. I mean, Bryce Young did a really good job of going out there and spreading the ball around the field a lot in this football game. You know, he was just playing like you know that quarterback that got drafted out of Alabama that we kind of all expected to maybe transition to into the NFL. So this was a promising performance from him, and this is a performance that you can obviously in a completely not necessarily a meaningless game for the Falcons, but what was a completely meaningless game for the Panthers. It was nice to find some meaning out of it with the performance of Bryce Young. And especially in overtime, Tad, let's not forget, this game was like less than 4 minutes away from being tied, but then Bryce Young literally goes down and prevents that from happening. And then none other than oh man, yeah, Mr. Miles Sanders scores the game-winning touchdown. Yes, Tad, I would like to personally ask you, where would you rank Miles Sanders amongst running backs in the league?
I
17
mean,
carries, 66 yards, and the game-winning touchdown.
yeah, as I was trying to say, I mean, Miles Sanders, he's a running back that hasn't had a lot of opportunity this year. And personally, I think throughout his career, he's been a bit underutilized. But when he gets a chance, he can be solid. He can put up some solid numbers. Only 55 carries total on the season, 2 touchdowns, 205 yards. I mean, so definitely not eye-popping numbers, but I feel like, I mean, at least early on in his career, he was underutilized by the Eagles, and now here he's in Carolina. And obviously he's in a reserve role behind guys like Chuba Hubbard, who's been injured lately, so that's why he's getting more run now. But I mean, he just hasn't been used enough, I don't think, lately.
Right. So obviously, you build off of this if you're the Panthers. You keep your coach around, in my opinion. You keep developing Bryce Young, keep Bryce Young around. Maybe try to develop some of these other guys as well. Tad, for the Falcons, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons for a second and what their story going ahead for them. Tad, you personally predicted the Atlanta Falcons to win this NFC South. You thought it was going to be Kirk Cousins. You end the season with Michael Penix Jr. as your quarterback. Um, a bit of a head scratcher for the future of this franchise. For
I
what's
mean,
the second year
it
now, going next season.
feels like the future is pretty clear that they've chosen Michael Penix to be the guy to lead them into the future. And it was just really interesting the way they did it in the middle of a division race. You bench your incumbent veteran for a rookie quarterback, and I mean, to his credit, I mean, Michael Penix, he had three quality enough performances. I mean, he beats the Giants, he goes toe to toe with Jaden Daniels. You lose in overtime, never see the ball, and then you go toe to toe with the Panthers. You put up fine stats, you score 38 points, and then you go to overtime again, and again, you never see the ball in overtime. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that Michael Penix Jr. was the problem. I mean, they certainly could have won both of the games they lost with him, but in the end, I mean, now they're just going forward, and Michael Penix Jr. is the unquestioned leader of the franchise in the quarterback room moving forward.
Yeah. So Kirk Cousins, I don't know what the future holds for Kirk Cousins specifically. But for the Falcons, 8-9, a very disappointing season, Tad. I mean, this was a Falcons team that kind of wanted to make the playoffs and or if not win the division. A
Yeah, I mean,
disappointing season for the
I
Falcons.
saw
This
the
is what we
Falcons
expected for the
team
Panthers.
that I saw the Falcons as a team that could have been a dark horse contender in the NFC, and obviously they did not live up to that billing. I mean, they had some moments where it looked like they could be a competitive football team, but they could just this was an example of a team that just they couldn't put it together. I mean, the solid win against the Eagles. Obviously, you sweep Tampa Bay, but when the going got tough, I mean, they couldn't find a way to finish their games. I mean, it's just a lot of close losses and such, and then a lot of losses that weren't quite as close. I mean, they had some poor performances, and I think that they have a lot. They need to like figure out some of the things. They need to get their defense figured out. I thought their defense would be quite a bit better, so we'll see. A lot of questions in Atlanta.
A lot of questions for sure. So yeah, going forward, they're going to have a lot of things to figure out there. But I certainly believe that Michael Penix Jr. is going to be amazing in his role. So we'll
I
see
do
what
too.
happens. Um, so yeah, Panthers win 44-38 in overtime against their NFC South rivals, the Falcons. So yeah, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Next week we will be bringing you super wild card weekend coverage. So stay tuned for that next week. Uh, in the meantime, keep staying subscribed and followed along for Week 18 recaps and playoff content coming right around the corner.